So I thought I would start off. I'm just going to give sort of a short talk about 10 or 15 minutes and set up to the student debate that we have coming up next, which is going to be about entrepreneurship in universities and courses in entrepreneurship. So I've called it the academic entrepreneuriat, and if you think this is the first time you've heard that and you don't know what it means, probably you're not alone, because this is a new word that I've coined because I think it's the right moment that this needs to be discussed. So I'll go into what is that, and then asking what is this day, this special day. There was one day that really has made or is making an impact, and what is that day? But here we are, we're at this gathering with the SET2U, and this is actually how it looked about 10 days ago. So people have been joining on. There's now 34 universities, and that's how it looked. There was only 10 of them when I first heard of this event. But this is what it looks like now, and you can see something about the map of Europe here. We have Lithuania on there, yes. And we have some countries that are more active and some less so in this. What do you notice here? What's one thing that sticks out with this map? Too much Spain. Okay. They're active. Central Eastern Europe, Northern Europe, right? So we're part of that, and there are two universities, Miklas Romas and ISM, that are here represented today, and we're glad to be joining as part of that. I come at this as a Canadian. This is a mosaic by a Canadian, which is in the United Nations, as looking at how these voices can come into dialogue and into contact from a variety of different perspectives. And in the whole, we're still looking at Europe, or we're still looking at the European higher education area, or all the other things that Startup Europe is looking to develop. So I just throw that up as an image. Here are some of the people locally. We do have an audience for those who are watching where this is being live streamed. You can see some of the local organizations that are part of this, some startups. We have universities as well, and then RISE here in this lovely facility, one of the really best in Vilnius to have. So thanks to all of them for helping us. I wanted to ask, though, if anyone knows who either of these two people is. One is from the United States and the other is from Kazakhstan. Does that help at all? Okay, I'll go one more. Anyone know what that? It's hard to read. It says boycott Elsevier or Elsevier, depending how you say it. Anyone know what that is? Getting closer?
It's about the education system. They maybe made some breakthrough on the change.
No. Maybe this one will help. Oops. Anyone there? Aaron Schwartz and Alexander Albakian. Anyone have any idea who that is? This is what got me thinking about the academic entrepreneuriat. Who are they? What do they do? So if you don't know, we'll let that hang for a little bit. Academics always like to have outlines for the presentation, so that's what I'm going to do in a very short period of time. And again, get back to this day. What is this day? But in light of the fact that we just had a Nobel Prize given to this Mr. Dillon, I put this up because I think this is really what's happening with the changes in the academy today as well. How different things are than they... I'm not getting any help on my clicker here. It looks like we need a little clicker help. Can we move the screen from inside? So anyway, I brought up Bob Dylan while we're trying to get the screen fixed. This is no. Okay, well, at that we have a little bit of a delay. I'll compare and won't talk about it later. But this, the notion of the proletariat, you've probably heard. Yeah, it's working again. There we go. Bob Dylan, and this is really a transition between the old system, the old model, the old structures, and the new ones. When we're talking about digitalization, and indeed this whole startup community, what does it mean? So here's my claim, and you can argue or debate, and that's what we're about to have a debate coming up. But it's already here. It's inevitable. It's growing, but only now is it starting to be seen. But what does that mean? What does it mean to be part of the entrepreneuriat? Proletariat, the workers, secretariat, the secretaries, etc. Well, I come back to this open access question and how access to publications are being decided. They use here the term pirated. Of course, Science is one of the most prestigious journals, and you can see where people are pirating and downloading these texts. So Aaron Swartz, the Robin Hood, was downloading from Stanford and then downloading from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology from JSTOR, one of the large publications outlets. And he was caught and charged for this. And in 2013, while he was being charged for 35 years in prison for what he did, even though he didn't publish the articles, he took them, he committed suicide and hung himself. So he's a major figure here, and that's led up to this sort of next stage of this, which is Sci-Hub. And again, they use the term pirate, but it's the place where you can get scientific research papers. So now there are over 48 million papers available, which go behind the paywalls. So of course there are legal ramifications of this. But it's certainly a debate that has a huge impact on academia, and in different ways, of course, academia and the knowledge economy in general, intelligence production, all kinds of things like that. So there's Sci-Hub, and you can go there now, but you have to choose different suffixes. I was speaking with someone, actually, Henry Etkovitz, who was one of the proponents of this entrepreneurial university not too long ago, and he said, Alexander Elbakian, who is afraid to travel, who has legal case against her, is not actually like the Edward Snowden. Because some people had thought, oh yeah, that's the Edward Snowden, you know, that she's trapped. But he said instead she's more like the Sean Parker. If you know the Sean Parker, anyone? He was one of the first investors in Facebook, but he was the Napster, the breaking of the music monopolies, right? Now, that collapsed, and he lost that case, but the whole music industry has changed, and we have Spotify's going to play some music later, so that's one example. But not the Edward Snowden in a sense of sharing a military or other secrets, but in terms of sharing this work. But the principal Elbakian says, she says, this is not illegal. I'm not a pirate. This should be allowed. This is a human rights issue. So the legal case still hinges on that. And she's saying, look, it's in the Declaration. Why can't we share? Why can't knowledge be shared? I probably have a few notes that I've forgotten to share about different ways that this is manifest. But again, I bring up this date of the 27th, because the 27th was the date this year where the European Competition Council, I'm pulling up my notes, made a declaration. And this is unique in the world, and I think really marks a distinction between the old and the new, is it's an open access target policy. So it's not implemented as law, but by 2020, all science, so they call it open science rather than just open access. All scientific publications in Europe will have open access. And that fundamentally changes the way science is done. And my claim here is that, if I've got this in the right place, this is going to fundamentally change also academic-business relationships. Because academics will now be forced to take a different approach to the way they publish, where they publish, who they publish with, their networks, etc. Europe's been thinking about this, obviously, for already a long time. And you can see that very powerful symbol. There's the locked one. I think they use orange color. And then this is the unlocked one. Right? It's unlocking access to all this stuff that's behind paywalls and firewalls right now, where you need to have access to a big institution that has money in order to be able to pay to have access to those things. So Schwartz and Elbakian and many others are thinking, and now Europe has taken that step. On that day, it was agreed by the Competition Council that this will now change, that there will be open access. And the ramifications of that, as I said, I believe are significant. Some of you may know there's already been a protest by scholars against Elsevier, is the company I brought up already. And The Guardian has reported, but many others as well, their profit margin keeps going up. And where do they get their labor from? It's in the market, and they're competing in the market, and that's okay, right? But they're huge, they're a monster, $4 billion a year, etc., right? And where are they getting their labor from? It's from academics, who are producing that because they need to have it to be able to climb up the academic ladder, So in a sense, they're needed, but they also have to have those publishers. So there's kind of an unfair relationship. And you can see that it's quite now widespread. We have all the large organizations that are working on this. And again, Aaron Schwartz and Alexander Albakian are two figures that are part of this movement. So the way that I kind of picture it, I don't know, they're not going to like it very much, but the reality is you could look at Elsevier. There's their famous image of the tree, and it says in here, non solus. You can see the image is not great. But to me, in a sense, this model is the old model. It's the dead tree of Gondor, under Denethor. It's neglected, right? The life and the nourishment of that tree of knowledge, if that's what it is, or the tree of publishing, has not been nourished. It's fallen somehow because of this. So, and where I'll come back, and because it's now time for the debate, is to connect with this idea of a social enterprise. And that Elsevier has a problem in a sense that all it's trying to do is make money as a business, as a profit, but at the same time it's not serving well its clients and its customers, which is also the people that produce this labor. And that's a problem, that it is exploitative, and a lot of people already know that. So this symbolizes this academic entrepreneuriat. If you don't like academic, maybe intelligence entrepreneuriat, but there's already intelligentsia, and I don't know if that's the thing. But can we look back at this tree of knowledge, the tree of Gondor, and we look at the difference between a social enterprise and a business enterprise? And now I want to transition that back in then to the debate and the discussion that we're about to have on those themes. And so I asked this question, can we actually have that tree of knowledge now with a multiversity, fragmentation, so many different subjects? You don't know the people in the next discipline or department to you. Everyone's a specialist. Nobody generalizes. How can we actually have these so-called centers of thought, which is what the university meant? And then throw this out to you as a provocation. University, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. My poor Spanish accent, sorry. So that's going to connect, because now we have a panel that's going to be talking about what is the university as well, what's entrepreneurship in the university. And